Good morning. I hope this video finds you well. We're going to continue in Romans 6, looking at verse 15. What then? Paul asks. He's talking about grace. We're under grace. What then? How should we live if we're under grace? What then? Are we to sin because we are not under law, but under grace? And he says, by no means, meganoito, no way, God forbid it, that we should do that. His question here, he's anticipating how some people might respond to the issue of grace. Think about our own culture. Sometimes grace is this idea that we now have this license to do whatever. Hey, if grace is running wild, then hey, are we to sin because we're not under law but under grace? Since we're under grace, is it just no holds barred? You just kind of do what you want? Well, this is a fundamental misunderstanding of grace. Because grace is not a license to do that which you want. It's a dual piece that we've mentioned. It's a forgiveness of sin that gets you the power of God to forgive you of your sin first. Secondly, it's an enablement to do what's right. So it's not a license to do something. However, let me say this. If there is no context for abuse, as John Piper's pointed out, then perhaps what you're talking about is not the grace of the gospel. Because the grace of the gospel is this unmerited power that God gives you to be forgiven of your sin. And you don't deserve it. There is a sense in which you are fully under grace. That grace is to enable and to quicken you. It is not to leave you in a space where you can just go do whatever it is that you want. And Paul's going to explicate that. He's going to explain the role of grace. And yet, we want to recognize that what we have is a definite removal from the idea of works righteousness. The implications of grace are that we live under God's rule by God's power in such a way that we are free from the trappings of the law. We are free from this earning expectation. We're free from doing chin-ups at the bar of righteousness. Instead, grace has given us a standing. Now, out of that standing, it doesn't mean that we can just do, in one sense, that which is contrary to God's will and be okay with it. In another sense, we are free in some ways to do what we want. And what I mean by that is that if you are a believer, then your wanter is being changed. How you function, the things that you desire, that which you have an impulse toward is not what it once was. So it's not this, well, I come and get this transaction of forgiveness and now I can do whatever I want. It's that if you've gotten that transaction of forgiveness, that grace that saves you is also the grace that sanctifies you. You won't be content to continue in sin. So, are we to sin because we're not under law but under grace? By no means. If you did that, you wouldn't be understanding grace. Think through that today, and may the Lord bless you. We'll talk more about sin in tomorrow's video.